This is lesson 3 of chapter 7 of probability and statistics. Our topic today is theoretical and experimental probabilities. Your essential outcome is that you will be able to analyze theoretical versus experimental probabilities. Alright, so things we talked about. We talked about random numbers, or random samples. We talked about probability. We talked about it being between 1 and 0. So here's just a quick review. We have a bag containing 4 red marbles, 16 yellow marbles, 5 purple marbles, 6 blue marbles, and 10 green marbles. What I'd like you to do right now is pause the video and find each of these probabilities. Alright, you can check your answers with mine. I got for the probability of green that it's 6 out of 41. Probability of not green is 35 out of 41. Probability of red or yellow is 20 out of 41. Probability of something being purple and blue, well, you can't have a purple and blue marker, so that's 0. And probability of not purple is 36 out of 41. Alright, so there are 2 kinds of probabilities. We've touched on this a little bit already. There's theoretical probability and experimental probability. And let's talk about some definitions for these. Theoretical probability. It's the desired outcomes out of divided by the total outcomes. And theoretical is the probability that is supposed to happen when doing an experiment. So this is the probability that if you do an experiment enough times, it's eventually going to get pretty close to this, or it's going to reach this. Experimental probability, that's the number of times event A happens over the total number of trials. Experimental is the probability that actually happens when you do the experiment. So theoretical probability, you don't have to do anything to do with theoretical probability. You just need to know all of the possible outcomes and all of the outcomes that are going to give you what you want. Experimental probability, you need to physically do the experiment. You need to roll the die. You need to flip the coin. You need to draw cards from the pile. Alright? That's experimental probability. And if you do an experiment enough times, you get very close to the theoretical probability. So here we have a spinner. Alright? And so we're going to run an experiment. So if we think about this, we've got the theoretical and the experimental probability. So before we do any experiments, let's figure out what the theoretical is. Well, how many possible outcomes are there? There are 4. There's red, this orangish yellow, green, and blue. Let's change the names in this box. Blue and orange. Alright, so we've got red, orange, green, and blue. And if we think about it, there's 4 possible outcomes. So the probability of getting red, well, only one of the outcomes is going to get us that. That's 1/4. The probability of getting orange, well, only one outcome out of 4 gets us that. It's the same for green, and it's the same for blue. So now let's actually spin the spinner. We're going to spin it 12 times. We're going to see what we get. We got 1 orange, so I'm just going to put a 1 in there. We spin it again. We got orange again. So now we have 2. We got orange a 3rd time. Now we have green. We're back with orange. We're at 5 trials. We want to do 12. So we're about halfway there. We're going to end up in blue this time. So we are halfway there on our trials. We still have yet to get red. Interesting. We're ending up in orange again. We are at 8 trials. We need to do 4 more. Ending up in blue again. 9 trials. Oh, we finally got red. Alright. This is our very last trial. And we ended up in green again. Alright, so we did 12 spins, and so the experimental probability is going to be 1/12, 6/12, 2/12, and 3/12. And if we simplify these, we get 1/4. That one's the same as its theoretical. We get 1/6. It's different from its theoretical. We get 1/2. Very different from its theoretical. And so, as you see, as we do an experiment more and more times, we started off with only having orange. for quite a while, and everything else would then have a probability of 0. And as we do the experiment, the probabilities in our experimental probability change, and they get closer and closer to our theoretical. So here, let's do another situation. It says Sally makes 5 out of the 45 free throws she took in practice. In her next game, what is the probability that she'll make the first free throw she takes? So in the next game, what is the probability that she makes the first free throw she takes? We have to think about, is this going to be a theoretical or experimental probability? Well, this is based on what she did before. So if it's based on what she did before, this is experimental probability. Spell that right. Okay, so what is the probability of her making her free throw? Well, if it's based on what she did before, we're going to use that. She got 5 out of 45, and so we simplify that fraction and we get 1/9. So the probability of her making her free throw is 1/9. Alright, and that is the end of Lesson 3 of Chapter 7 of Probability and Statistics. Write your summary and your questions. Essential outcomes that you will be able to understand probability and find the probability of events.